In this series of videos, we're going to talk about patterns. There's a few different types of patterns we'll be discussing, but we will talk about strategies that you can use to figure out what the patterns are for each. Our learning targets for these videos are: I can identify and describe the relationship found in patterns. I can solve practical problems involving identifying, describing, and extending input and output tables. And I can identify the rule in a numerical pattern found in a list or table. The first one we're going to focus on, though, is just identifying and describing the relationship found in patterns. And we're going to look at that in terms of numbers in a series. These are simple patterns that you've probably worked with before. And so we're just going to walk through an easy example. So if you have a list of numbers, 4, 12, 36, 108, 324, the first thing you need to decide is, what is this rule for the pattern? What is the rule for this set of numbers? How would I figure out what the next number is? So first, let's think about this. I see 4 and then I see 12. Well, what do I do to 4 to get 12? I think I can add 8. So we're going to start with the possibility of plus 8. So I test it. 4 plus 8 is 12. But then I look at my next set of numbers and I have 12 and then 36. 12 plus 8 does not equal 36. So I know right away that plus 8 is not the rule. So let's look at another possibility. What else can I do to 4 to get 12? Well, I know I can multiply by 3. So 4 times 3 is 12. Well, what's 12 times 3? 12 times 3 is 36. 36 times 3, and luckily you'll be using a calculator, but 36 times 3 on your calculator you'll find is 108. 108 times 3 on your calculator is 324. So it looks like the rule for this pattern is times 3. So that just means that you take the number, multiply by 3 to get the next number. So we found out the rule, which is multiply by 3, and that's usually only the first step in solving problems like these. Usually, you'll see another question, a follow-up question, such as, what is the 8th term in the sequence? Now, a big mistake some people make is they automatically assume that, oh, the rule is times 3, and I need to know the next term, so I'm going to take 324 and multiply that by 3. However, the question is asking for the 8th term in the sequence. So first you have to figure out how many terms you already have. And I see 4, 12, 36, 108, 324. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So those are 5 terms. So I actually need to figure out first what the 6th term is. So I figured out that the 6th term is 972 because I take 324, multiply by 3, and I get 972. Let's figure out what the next term is. By multiplying by 3, 972 times 3, I get 2,916. The next term is 8,748, and that's the 8th term because 2,916 times 3 is 8,748. So the 8th term, to answer this question, the 8th term is the sequence. In the sequence is 8,748. And like I said, you'll be able to use a calculator for this, so there's not going to be too much rigorous math that you need to do. So this is a simple problem of just looking at numbers in a series, figuring out what the rule is to get from one number to the next, and then answering what the 8th term is in the sequence, or the 9th term, or even the 12th term they could ask you. Really, you just have to make sure that you know which term you're being asked to find, because if you were being asked to find the 6th term, then the answer would have been 972. But the question asked for the 8th one, so we had to think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need the 8th one, and that was 8,748. When you're working with patterns this year, you'll be looking at rules that can include adding and subtracting whole numbers, decimals, or fractions. So the example we just did was just whole numbers and just adding or subtracting or multiplying and dividing whole numbers. But just so you know, you could also need to add or subtract decimals or fractions to figure out the terms or the next term in the sequence. So stay tuned for the next video to talk about input and output tables.